Welcome to Clay Mastermind with Don Grant. Mental excellence and industry insights. Brought to you by the Clay Lab, your ultimate podcast for mastering the mental game of clay shooting and gaining exclusive insights from the top minds in the industry. Join us as we dive into the strategies of elite athletes, uncover the secrets to peak performance, and share powerful techniques to enhance your shooting skill. Plus, get behind-the-scenes access to the leaders and innovators who are shaping the future of the clay shooting industry. Get ready to elevate your game, sharpen your focus, and gain insider knowledge from the best in the business. Let's get started. Here's your host, Don Grant.
Welcome back, folks. This is Clay Mastermind with Don Grant. It's mental excellence and industry insights, and I know we're going to get a lot from Haas today, so I'm looking forward to hearing all about his influence in the youth and what he's doing there with Anthony, and I'm sure other things he's got up his sleeve and experience and knowledge and wisdom and insight. So thank you for being here, Haas. Thanks for being a guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Don.
Yeah. So other than that little snippet I gave, what are your little highlights? You know, what if somebody's just starting to listen to this, what do you think that they'll gain from you?
So, hope to talk a little bit about my experience in coaching, both inside of the game and maybe a little bit outside of the game. Learn about me as a shooter, but also just whatever we can talk about sporting clays. I love listening to all the podcasts. I love being a part of them when asked. So I'm happy to be here and give back to the community.
What are some highlights of your experience and your time in the industry?
You know, I've had a lot of wins, whether they were class wins coming up or wins at certain shoots. I'm still looking for a big regional or mega blast to have next to my name. This year had a really strong performance to start off the year at the long bird, short bird at M&M, which is one of my favorite shoots, and had the opportunity to tie Jared Rumor, who's a known shooter on the pro squad and stuff at nationals. So happy to be up there and kind of kick off the season the right way. From a coaching perspective, I had the great opportunity to have people who have come to me from lessons, early on or some of their first formal opportunities to learn the game, win their class, win their certain events, That's always a positive. And some days when you're driving home from a shoot and maybe you didn't do as well as you wanted or you're a few targets off the lead, you have a lot of fun and happy phone calls to make on the way home. So sometimes it makes up some of the days you don't shoot your best.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how long have you been shooting? Like, if you go back into your childhood, were you shooting in your youth?
No, not at all. So
okay.
I fell into this game by accident, like really 6 or 7 years ago when it comes to sporting clays. I shot a little bit of trap before that. And one day I saw a flyer at a gun club. It was a charity event for one of my relatives. I didn't even know shot. I had no idea. And I was there on a Friday. It was the next day. And I came home and I called my parents. And I was like, this guy is our relative, right? Like this is, I have a pretty large family. And
yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's for sure him. They spelled his name a little bit different than I thought it was spelled. And so the next day I walk up and I shoot a 50 birds and I broke 34.
Pretty good.
And I was like, this is what I want to do. Kind of, fell on backwards to the game. And I was very fortunate that very soon after that got into a shooting school with Anthony as a student. I thought I made a big sacrifice by getting up about 5 o'clock in the morning and driving all the way up to New Jersey. And, not a morning person. So 5 o'clock is very early. And little did I know that in the class that the guys I'd be learning with were, there's a guy from Pittsburgh. So pretty far away, but not relative to the other guy who was from Texas, the other guy who was from Alaska, and the other guy who was from England.
Nice.
So my perspective on that changed very quickly. And since then, I've been off to the races.
Nice. So when was that?
I think that was at the very end of 2018 or the very beginning of 2019.
Okay.
Not 100% sure. My first shoot was a Seminole Cup, which would have been in March at, in South Georgia. And talk about a first shoot. That was one of the years when it, had torrential rains.
Oh, yeah.
So I got into the sport. First shoot, the weather threw everything at me to never come back again, but I'm still here.
Well, and that must have been one of their first, I guess. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like they haven't been doing the Seminole Cup in South Georgia
Yeah, I'm not
for very
totally
long.
sure. I
Yeah,
don't know. My history in the game is, not too deep,
yeah.
but I remember that shoot. I try to go back to the shoot every year. I don't make it all the time, but I have a very
Yeah.
fond remembrance of the shoot. And especially thinking about how bad I shot and how naive I was going to the event. Like, if anyone's gone to the Seminole Cup, you know that a golf cart is not a nice to have. A golf cart is a necessity there.
Yeah.
Didn't have one, right?
My gosh.
So I made some friends who have become friends for life.
Okay, good.
But it's quite a shoot, and that was quite a year, and I'm happy I'm still doing it.
I live like 10 minutes south of where they hold the Seminole Cup now in Georgia, and my shotgun club is like 20 minutes south of it. And so I've been going to Seminole Cup even when it was in South Florida, but every year that it's been up here at Sea Island, I've been going, and they've come such a long way. So I just want to, while we're talking about them, yeah, those first years they did have problems with rain and mud and all that, but they put money into that place every single year, and we've seen the improvements, haven't we? Like they just keep giving it their best every year. All right, folks, we'll be right back after a sponsored segment. Are you missing clays and wondering why? ShotCam can help. It's a lightweight camera that attaches under your barrel to record every shot, with a red dot showing where your barrel was pointed at the moment of truth. Just turn it on, it automatically saves everything. Instantly replay the videos on your phone, and they are clear enough to even see the pellets. I've used ShotCam frequently at my shotgun club. Not only has it been used in instruction time, but as a little different twist, I use it for making my social media content, because there's nothing like seeing that target break in the air and having a really great camera that does that. Super excited to have them on board here. Get your ShotCam at shotcam.com with the code TheClayLab. That's just one word, and you get 10% off. So the average shooter improves 10% in their first 30 days of using the camera. So that ShotCam, spelled SHOT, then KAM. So spell it with a K.
For sure.
Yeah, the roads are like paved, like that main entrance coming in got paved, and are always making sure that the gravel road is taken care of now. But yeah, bugs were a problem too. I think that those first few years potentially deterred people from coming back even, but between the bugs and the rain and the roads, they've addressed a lot, and it's a
For sure.
great shoot to go to. So yeah, this was later in your life then. So it's not, let's see, we're in 2025 right now. You said 2018,
Yep.
so about 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, somewhere about there.
Yeah.
And before that, maybe had a little bit of interest in guns here and there, shot them, but like, you see a lot of the youth in our game now. There was nothing like that. Wasn't exposed to it, and truly, there's not a whole lot like that up in the Northeast. And you see some of these teams, the SCTP teams from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. It's really cool to see. I wish I would have found the game earlier,
Yeah.
but happy to find it when I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So this love and passion that you have for it has grown a lot over the years. So at first you get an instruction, right? You're going to a clinic or whatever at
Yep.
Anthony's, and you're learning. And when do you start competing?
Yeah. So if that shooting school was at the end of 2018 or early 2019, I guess my first shoot was like a few months later, right? 2 or 4 months later. I think one of the things that drove me to it is not necessarily the love of shooting. I do truly enjoy the game, but it's also the opportunity for competition. I remember leaving that Seminole Cup. Shot like, someone can check this if they really care, but I think I shot a 123 out of 200 in the main event,
Okay.
and it rained. It was bad, but it was not a great performance. Zach Keembaum, who's one of my heroes in the game, shot a 199. So my 10 or 12-hour trip home from Georgia, I was trying to figure out where the other 76 targets where I needed to beat them. And in all reality, right at that point, they're all over the place. I was in D class or whatever, and so far down the at the time win score was the app that everyone used. I was so far down win score, it hurt your thumb scrolling down so far. But that's kind of where I began, and happy to be where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you first started competing, you mentioned something about the competing itself. Have you always been a competitive person?
for sure.
Was that
Um,
showing up in other sports
yeah, I played
before?
sports all through, like, when you're a kid up through high school. There's other ways to compete once in college and out of college. And part of that is also like, life comes at you, you get a job and such. And I was doing some coaching on a travel youth volleyball team. Really
Oh,
enjoy volleyball. Kind of fell into that backwards as well. Was looking for something a little bit different. And again, a few things fell into place, but that one charity shoot kind of kicked it all off.
yeah, yeah. I think that's something that a lot of listeners will be able to relate to is that competitive nature because it doesn't turn off, does it?
Yeah. No, it's a core tenet of me, right?
Yeah.
If I can beat you in in this, or if we, who can get the most whatever else, or who can get in and out of the grocery store faster, I'm gonna try to beat you.
Isn't that a funny thing? I mean, I'm sure you're just so used to it, but as an outsider that doesn't have a lot of that competitive thing, I find it really fascinating to watch because it's almost like an addiction, right? I mean, it just keeps you so hungry for
Yeah,
more
for
and
sure.
keep coming back for more and rising to the next occasion. And that aspect, I believe, is one of the reasons that my business changed so much to working with athletes. Because, prior to working so much with athletes, I worked with all sorts of different people. So whether it was, weight loss or quit smoking or fear of bridges or fear of flying or sleep problems, it could be any different topic. And, but the ones that were most motivated then kept coming back and were hungry for more and would do whatever it is I taught them and want more when they came back for the second appointment, those were the athletes, and the ones that had that competitive nature, that drive and that determination and that I'm gonna do this at any cost,
Yeah,
and it's really interesting.
I fully believe that anything worth doing is worth doing well and getting it right the first time.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's just something that's part of me, and right, I think that's kind of one of the reasons that once I found out that this was something I wanted to do, try to find someone to help you in that, right? And to be honest with you, I
Uh-huh.
did not know that Anthony was Anthony. I just found him was a local guy that had a
Yeah.
course, and so there's a lot of luck that's played into a lot of kind of stars to align or whatever to get to this point. But
Mhm.
I'm very happy it did the way it did.
Yeah, for sure. I love it when things like that happen too. It reminds me a little bit of when I met Joe. So my husband now, Joe Skoll, and I met him at nationals like 5 years ago, and I didn't know who he was. I had no
Yeah,
idea. I actually just thought he was a client. He was being friendly, and I have a lot of clients that are online or that
yeah,
have bought like either my online course or hypnosis audios, and they know me, but that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
mean I know them. And they might even know my face because of the online courses, and they'll be waving and all friendly. And I'm like, hey. And I was like, oh, he must be a client. I'll just be friendly back to him.
That's
It
too
cracks
funny
me up now too, because I had no idea, that he was, a top target setter. And
for sure.
although what he ended up helping me so much, and I just had no idea that that
Yeah,
was the case.
we miss Joe up here.
I know, right? Well, I have to tell you, he's doing very well down here in the South. He is loving his semi-retired life, although it was quite an adjustment for several months of because he owned that shotgun club in
Yeah,
Jersey, which is a little bit south of them, where we're talking about where Anthony is. So he owned a shotgun club for 30 years. Good friends, and Anthony's like a son to him because they were so close for so long. And Anthony used to shoot at his club when he was young, and they shot together. I mean, so many different things. So he's very enmeshed in all that. And so he sold his club up there a year and a half ago. And the first few months of being away from living and breathing a club for 30 years, you could probably say he went into a depression. Like, I mean, he lived on property too. He would go outside and plow down a tree if he wanted to, or make a new course, like
yeah,
he
yeah.
had all the heavy equipment. And anyways, but he's doing really good now. He's out fishing almost every day.
That's
We
great to
live near
hear.
the ocean, and yeah, other than and setting targets still at major events, he's chilling out.
Good. We're gonna see him at nationals this year.
Oh yeah,
Good.
yeah. I feel like he might be helping Anthony with something, another event. in the
In
near
a month
future? I don't
in a month or
remember.
so, they have a Delaware River Classic, which is a pretty
Oh,
big shoot in the fall up here, so wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think he's doing that one. I would know the name. I don't know. It might be a regional worlds or something coming up at some point. But yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't miss the snow. In the winter, he's like dumbfounded. I'm not even joking. Like every day he's like, why is it December and I'm out in the boat fishing? I don't understand. Like this does not compute because he's lived in New Jersey or his whole life.
Well, you can let them know that new Joe and Chris Pancos are taking great care of his club and being great steward of the property. I'm glad to
Yes.
see their success there as well.
Yeah, Cedar Creek is so he's in regular contact with them, and he part of the contract was for 6 months to go up there and make sure that they had some, footing underneath them and understood things, and he's in regular. I mean, yeah, they're writing him a check every month for years, so
There you go.
he's in regular contact, and they have done such a great job, and they've come such a far way too because they were not in the competitive shooting industry. They lived down the street and just thought it would be cool to own a shotgun club. So the learning curve was pretty great, and they've done it. They're doing a great job.
They really are.
Yeah, I know he's gotten to know Anthony as well, and Anthony is helping him out and giving him some advice tools. So that's awesome. Yeah, so folks got to check that out. You got to go to, but you also got to go down to Cedar Creek.
For sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's fast forward a little bit. So you're competing. Your first event was Seminole Cup, and you mentioned you've had some really great scores and done some great things. So how does that evolve? Do you keep getting instruction from Anthony after that clinic?
Yeah. I feel like it wasn't that long ago, but still I was trying to do like 4 or 5 lessons a year.
Okay.
Since then, it's got harder. If it was hard enough to schedule, I feel like it was hard enough to schedule 4 or 5 years ago. And now you look at scheduling now, and I have to book the whole year in January or something. So
Yeah.
it's a great problem for Anthony to have. It's a great
Yeah.
problem also for me to have because it keeps me honest and schedules out my whole year so early.
Nice.
But it's a constant thing, and I'm fortunate that in the position I am with the AIM Shooting School, having Anthony as a coach, but also a mentor, as well as Diane,
For
just
sure.
helped me in so many different ways.
For sure. Yeah. So how did that end up coming about?
So he was pretty interested in me getting my level 1 certification. Once
Uh-huh.
he knew my background, I did a lot of coaching, prior to ever picking up a shotgun.
And different sports? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
So I coached a high school girls travel team. I did a lot of other coaching in the volleyball world, and I
Okay.
found that that experience helps me every day with the coaching that I'm doing now. But the difference is you're learning to serve a volleyball or pass volleyball or do something with a team compared
Uh-huh.
to obviously the intricacies of our game, right? Whether that be like technical or mental or trying to think through different processes or what we're doing or how to
Uh-huh.
do something better, but the overarching skills needed to coach don't really ever change. But I think that was my competitive environment before I found sporting clays and clay target sports in general.
Uh-huh. Mhm. I gotcha. Well, it's a really great opportunity, especially for someone who is fairly new to the sport. I mean, I'm like sensing that he really saw something in you, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And but from there, right after his recommendation, the spot opened up. There was a guy who was given a lot of the more entry level or whatever you want to call that type of lessons, and he was kind of getting out of it. And there was a spot, and I guess again things aligned up. Offered the job, took it without thinking, and been real busy on weekends ever since.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What are some of your favorite aspects of being a coach or teaching
So
beginner shooters, right?
yeah, so I coach anybody from like competitive NSCA shooters to non-registered but like super enthusiastic shooters that might shoot leagues or shoot a few times a month
Uh-huh.
with their buddies to also people who shoot like very infrequently. Like I've done some birthday parties, I've done some retirement parties, I've done a lot of corporate outings and things where people are gonna go, they're going on a pheasant hunt. They need to prepare for that. And, the clays course is a great place to
Nice.
make sure you're pointing the shotgun right or knock the rust off before the shots really matter.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the people I see, anywhere really from D to A class or the recreational side. And Fortunate, like I mentioned earlier, some of my biggest successes or biggest proud moments this year from the coaching perspective has come when people have won big shoots in their class or put up,
Yeah.
a real good score. The Seafood Blast is probably the biggest shoot in our area outside of a regional or any sort of, US Open or World Championship that might come around. And I had a guy who a year prior to the event came out. He had shot a few times, and his email said something like, me and my buddy want to come for a lesson. We average 40 to 50% on the novice side. We're looking to get better. And then a year later, the Seafood Blast came around and he won his class. So
Nice.
obviously, there's a lot of respect and kudos that goes to him for the
Mm-hmm.
effort, for learning, for doing the homework, to you know picking up, asking good questions on anything from technique or reading targets or making plans or mentally what's going through your mind in these situations or whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking all his credit. I'm happy to be a part of his journey though.
Yes, for sure.
So those are the things that get me pumped. I also want to go to the shoot and win the shoots. Like, don't get me wrong, when I commit or enter an event, 10% of my mind is on winning. And that day, it's the most important thing I can do, right? You're stuck in a field or in the woods, of course, somewhere. But if I can't have a good day, or even if I do have a great day, there's a lot of other positive things that can make my day even better from the coaching perspective.
What a great attitude you have. And also, I like the humility that you're exhibiting related to, helping somebody, but recognizing that there's so many different elements that go into their success, right? You're part of that journey, but not all of it. And that I don't know that everybody has the insight to be able to recognize that, like you just mentioned it, because you said it so well.
Well, I can't call pull and I can't pull the
Mm-hmm.
trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's on them. And if I'm, when I'm at a shoot, I'm always happy to give advice, shooters, whatever, but not when they're on the course and not, I don't ever want to give them like an answer key to the test.
Right.
You know, the event that day is the test, or the event that weekend, or, nationals, the event for a week and a half or whatever
Yeah.
is the test. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to do anything, but I'm super happy to be in hopefully a positive and encouraging figure as they're, working up the classes, getting punches, hopefully collecting some punches and some trophies whenever they attend an event.
Do you find that you have to kind of set that boundary stronger
Yeah.
with some
Yeah.
people more than others? Meaning, like, some of them, if they see you out there, they want you to help them
I kind of give them what I just told you, kind of like if I'm out there shooting,
up front?
it's me.
Mhm.
And I have no problem telling people, hey, we'll talk later or something. Because when I'm in the box, right, I think part of, if you want to call this mental game or preparation or outlook or whatever, shooting has to be the most important thing.
Mm.
And when I mean by shooting, I mean my shooting, right? I'm not
Right.
there I know, especially at a local shoot, if I do my job, there's no reason I can't win or be in the top few scores, right?
Mhm.
So it must be the most important thing in the world. Like when the target's in the air, you got to make sure you're giving every ounce energy to seeing that target and kind of carrying out your plan. So I won't let it bother me. I think sometimes it's actually nice to have someone to talk on the course, whether they're in your squad or as a backup or, some those things happen, right?
Mhm.
For whatever reason. And so sometimes it's nice just to be able to chit chat about something that's not the target. Because I think one of the parts that I might struggle with is it's a 2 hour event or a rotation or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
But you only really have to concentrate for like 10 minutes, maybe. So understanding what you're doing with the other 110 minutes of that course has to be beneficial for you on that day. And sometimes it's having a good, fun squad. And sometimes it's might be, being left alone or depending on how you're feeling that day. And I think that's definitely something that I've worked on, but I have no problem setting the boundary. And if you're there to do your best and have fun, that's great. But when you're in the station, I'm there to win. I'm there to
Right.
break all the targets.
Yeah. And you know, f- some folks that are, let's say, instructors or vendors and trying to maybe provide a service or, selling product or whatever, but also shooting or instructors, I come across this a lot where if they're out there trying to shoot themselves, they can be really distracted mentally, let's say by the gun sale that they might be getting or waiting for, or the person that's supposed to come back, or like in the squad is somebody who's wanting to
Yeah.
buy a gun, and so those people have a really hard time staying focused.
Yeah. So touching on that subject, I think
Yeah.
that's just an outlook that I've worked on. And there was a time one of my family members was not doing very well and definitely towards the end of their life. And I had a hard time sometimes going away for a shoot, knowing like, all right, there's something back at home that I should probably, it's definitely more important. But once I've committed to going to shoot, once I'm there, look again, there's clay targets flying around a field or in the woods or wherever you're at in the middle of nowhere, somewhere. That's what matters now. I can't save the day. I can't really be of any assistance at that time.
Mhm.
And if something did happen, I would leave, but I'm
Mhm.
still 2 hours away or whatever. Most of the clubs in my area are 2 hours away that have shoots like Hopkins and Cedar Creek's a little further, et cetera.
Mhm.
So I think I learned that ahead of time. I will tell you, I struggled a lot with watching the person in front of me shoot because
Mm.
I'm, used to doing that 16 hours on a weekend or something and having to deal with
Yes.
watching them and not getting the coach mode of, all right, man, see the target, or we got to connect better, or we're not matching speed and we're ripping through and we can't do that on this target. So I've worked on a lot of different things to make sure that my mind doesn't go there, but also just try to stay a little bit separated from the squad. Not that I'm separated, right? I'm happy to be out there. I love meeting new people. I love
Yes.
shooting with my friends, but I can't be as invested as a person in me or in front of me because I need to make sure I'm ready to do what I need to do.
I totally relate, and what's fascinating with so you've got some expertise in instruction, right? So you've got this wisdom or insight or ability to see something and have to zip your lips, but not only zip your lips, but try not to think about it because you're there to focus on your own self, your own targets, and this is not even exaggeration. That literally happens to me all day long because my expertise is related to, like, basically proper use of thoughts in your mind and what you're saying and what you're expecting. And are you worrying? Are you doubting? Are you fearing? Are you angry? Are you regretful? Every human around me is exhibiting something like that. And I have to do what you're doing all day long,
Yeah,
zip my lips
yeah,
and try not to allow it to affect me because I can't help everybody. I can't control the world, and people are on their own journeys, right? And unless they ask, then I've got to mind my own
no,
business.
for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Years and years ago, I was dating a guy he was really big into multiple different disciplines of martial arts and was really high up at it. And I had told him, trying to get him to understand kind of this concept of what I live with every day. I'm like, imagine watching people doing MMA or, Jeet Kune Do or whatever, and you see them doing something that can cause them injury. You see them doing something that can cause them pain. Like, that's my life. Like, that's what I see all the time. I see the quality of people's thoughts causing them pain and suffering and potentially injury if they're not. I don't mean it could be physical, but I mean, depression, sadness, regret, all these things are debilitating, right? And it goes back to the quality of their thoughts. Amazing. So I think from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like so many years of coaching experience, you've learned not only to have really good boundaries, but how to integrate that in your own competitive nature so that you can still be your best in spite of having potentially students all around you or potential students around you, right?
Yeah. Well, also, I think the other half of that, now that we kind of think thinking about this, is it's also like you take a step back. How cool is it that people want your advice, or how cool is it that people want to be around you, or shoot with you, or want to squat with you, or how
Right?
cool is the opportunity that yeah, you have a sponsor that you might be obligated or want to support at their booth or help sell a gun or whatever you were mentioning earlier.
Mhm.
So if you take a step back, like that's probably more important or a very important part of the whole experience of the weekend. We just can't let the cool part of that get too wrapped up and probably, like you were just saying, make you think the wrong things, right? It shouldn't be a form of stress. If anything, it should be a form of a positive experience. But I'm sure, depending on how the last station went, it could change all throughout the course when you're on.
Right. Yeah. What you're referencing is not letting things go to your head and your ego, right? And to
Yeah.
have
And
some
no,
humility.
if you miss, you miss. There's really nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah.
If you miss on or not the last pair of that station, well, you have a chance to correct it.
Right.
You might need to replan. You might need to make sure you read the target right. You might need to think a happy thought or tell yourself what you need to do. If not, if that was the last pair you missed, well, guess what? That's over. You're moving on to the next station. You all get to go on a little golf cart ride or whatever,
Nice.
and you get a chance to get back on track.
Have you always been a believer in the mental game, going back to all your coaching and competitions, competitiveness over the years?
I think there's parts of it, right? So I mentioned I coached high school girls volleyball.
Mhm.
Getting everyone on the same page, making sure everyone is thinking the right things, making sure everyone's positive can be kind of hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta fake it, right? I
Yeah.
think that goes in our game. Sometimes you gotta put on a smile even though you dropped half the targets in the first station and it's gonna be a long afternoon. But yeah, I think mental game is important. I think it's something I'm really working with now because, I'm not sold that. I guess this actually depends on how you define the mental game,
Mhm.
but it matters, right? But the technical skills and things
Mhm.
are huge, are very important, especially for a brand new shooter or someone like I was mentioning earlier who's going to go on a hunt.
Mhm.
Mental game isn't going to matter to them. What's going to matter for them is they can mount the gun and look at the target. But when
Right.
it comes into our game and you're really fighting to beat, the Anthonys, the Zachs, the Todds, the Joe Finizzi, the whoever else, yeah, every target matters. So if there's an area to be gained by having a positive mental attitude or making sure that you're thinking the right things or you have a great pre-shot routine or whatever that, however you like to define it, however the individual listening is going to define it, it matters.
Yeah, I think, and I'm glad that you said this up front of that statement. It depends on how you define the mental game, right? And I've mentioned this in other podcasts. How I define the mental game is from what I've observed is very different from even what's being taught in college for sports psychology. It's much more what I believe to be the true mental game, meaning if you're pissed off, you're not going to perform well. If you're regretful and still thinking about the past, whether that's life or shooting or the previous station, the previous shot, or, an argument you had with somebody, like those things affect you. And if you're worried about the economy, worried about, I don't know, who you're meeting for dinner, the next stand, your score, all those things take you out of that moment where you're not focusing on the process. So, going back to the mechanics, going back to the basics, like keep it simple, stupid. The process is there. And you'd said that earlier, your job is to stick to the process. And if you do that, you have a good chance of doing really well. But the problem is focusing on the process can be detoured by all these other potential misuse of the mind. And so, there are, I guess, mental trainers out there that are focusing primarily on, let's say, pre-shot routine. I'm focusing on every, potential thought that could hold you back from being your best. And when I look at it that way, it's applicable to everybody. I mean, it's applicable to life, right? Like you can't even be your
Yeah.
best self in your relationship or in your job or whatever if you've got all this crappy thinking going on. Clay shooting's just an element of the day. It's a segment of the day and even hunting. And so again, if somebody, is going out there hunting and they're too busy being pissed off about something or worried about their phone call or whatever, that's the mental game that I help people with. And I know there's some people out there that believe, oh, well, you've got to get the mechanics down and don't even bother with the mental for a few years. Well, what about the woman that's afraid to hold a gun? Or what about someone who's got so much lack of confidence in themselves that they won't even take the next step to compete? Like there's so many true mental issues that can be going on. That doesn't mean everybody. And again,
Yeah.
this is just my opinion, clearly, but there is
Yeah. I
yeah.
feel like it's important, right? Like what to echo what you just said, if you're going to go into anything with a bad attitude, probably not going to have as much fun, or you're probably not going to do as well as you could otherwise.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got to master class, which is kind of a rite of passage where you go, I've worked hard. I've got all the way up. I've worked on technical ability, connecting the targets, learn to match speed, learn to read targets, make good plans, and the confidence to do all of that on demand.
Yeah.
And then you get to master class and you find out like, all right, the 82 or whatever that one double A last week is not going to cut it.
Ugh, rough.
And
Yeah.
in the area I'm in, we're fortunate to have a lot of really good clubs. We might not be Houston or South Florida or Georgia or South Carolina, but we have Cedar Creek. Hopkins isn't too far away. There's a few other clubs in the area, and we got a lot of good shooters. So if you can do well here, there's probably about a dozen people that could show up to a big shoot at say Emmett or a state shoot that like Cedar Creek or Hopkins might throw or something
Mm-hmm.
that can realistically win. Some of those guys are on the pro squad or have been on the pro. I'm thinking like Sean Blaze, Jared Rumor, Bill Dennis. There's a whole list of them. Those are the guys that I would always circle their score and be like, all right, and talking about my first shoot with Zach. Those are the guys in the area that were winning things. I go, all right, they beat me by 11. How did I get those 11 targets back? And then how did I get the next few? And fortunately, uh, they're all good friends at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm happy if maybe if I'm not on the top of the podium, there's others around that you like to be around and respect that are doing well.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. Well, so how long now have you been doing the instruction at M&M?
So beginning of last year, so January 2024, I think had my first client. So we're about a year and a half into this thing, and um, between like the actual coaching as a part of that school, and as well as with obviously I'm a part of the M&M Mallards team. That's what we call ourselves. So we have a dozen to 20 kids that are involved for different parts of the year, depending on what other sports and stuff they play.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a team closer to home. So I don't live very close to M&M. I live in Maryland. There's another trap team at a club that I'm at home,
Mm-hmm.
and so I help out with them. Teaching them all the same things. But the M&M Mallards, is more sporting clays, more what I'm into, more aligned to what I'm, wanting to do with my clay target shooting career. And we have a great team. A lot of new people to shooting. A lot of people that might not be so much into the competition side, but are really into waterfowl
Mm.
hunting, geese hunting, where I'm at in mid Atlantic, we have a really good area for a lot of that hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of kids with shotguns, but maybe not super on the competitive side, but we're getting them busting a lot of clays, and hopefully we can maybe get a little bit more formalized and attend some shoots.
Nice. So the
I know
Mallards
SCT.
is the kids league, is the youth
Yeah.
league. There.
Yep. So we take kids it really depends on how physically and mentally mature they are.
Mm.
We don't want people around that aren't really comfortable manipulating the shotgun or not being safety conscious, but anywhere from like 9 to high school senior. And we have, there's a few kids that do some competition. There's a lot more hunters, which is great. It's actually kind of refreshing because it's something that I'm not as into.
Mm-hmm.
Or not as doesn't take up as much as my time as all the sporting clays stuff. And um, we have a lot of fun. Got a chance for kids to shoot guns again. Yeah,
How
comparing to
often?
down
Mhm.
south,
Oops.
like we're very small. The Northeast does not have that many teams. Maybe on the trap side, especially like in Pennsylvania, they might have a lot, but not really on the SCTP type stuff. We meet at least once a month,
Mhm.
and you basically get a small group, 2 hour lesson, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe it's individual, depending on how the scheduling works.
Mhm.
M&M's closed for the summer, as many are aware. So we're going to start up here again in a few weeks when M opens up, and we go from about September to June, depending on M&M's schedule.
You with them being closed, do you still do the instruction on the weekends, or did you get a break?
Uh, I'm busy.
So you're still doing the one-on-ones, the
Yeah.
privates?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
No. So the youth, as I said, right, if we have, let's just say we have a dozen or so kids, if we did kind of like the shooting school approach where we get 3 or 4 kids in a group, right, it's not as many hours as it might seem. I find the group lesson works really well because everyone's here. I think it works well for them, but I think it works well for everybody because you're hearing a maybe more in-depth explanation on someone else's issue
Mhm.
that can help confirm or make sure that what you're learning or what you're understanding is right. You're also getting a lot of time to yourself, on ability to ask questions to get answered,
Mhm.
or otherwise get help however else you need it. So it's kind of like the classroom approach. As long as we group people in similar age groups or similar abilities,
Hmm.
we haven't seen a problem with that, and it works pretty well.
I like that dynamic of the group session, like you're saying. Somebody, again, going back to just different personalities, somebody might not have the confidence to ask a question, but then somebody else asks a similar question or asks the same question, and then it gets answered, and it kind of like all morphs together really well, doesn't it?
So I do IT security for a real job.
Yeah.
And there's this concept through this one thing. It's told through a book called the Phoenix Project. It's true. But anyways, basically, if anyone ever has a question, I'm trying to teach them something I learned through this book is
Hmm.
if anyone ever has a question, we all stop, we ask the question, and we get an answer. It means we're all on the same page going forward. I think it's a great thing for teams. Maybe not in this aspect, but you applied it to a different sport, right? If someone doesn't know the play or they're confused about something, if we stop and we address it and everyone's good going forward, we should not see that issue arise again.
Right.
So what that might be now, it's different because we're trying to perform a certain task, and maybe it's not a small certain task on an assembly line, but it is, all right. Oh, we were thinking about maintain leading this shot, and really based on this presentation, it'd be best for us to use a different technique or a different way of approaching the target. Let's make sure we're all dedicated to this at this time. Not that it's the
Right.
only way to do it, but if that's what we're working on that day, or that's the kind of the way that those students, whether they're adults or youth, tend to approach things, we can get them kind of within their game doing things better.
Right. Right. That's another good way to look at it. Because not everybody's at the same stage at the same time. However, though, if everybody's listening, then they have that ability to learn that information. And when they do come across that, which could be the next day or the next week or month or whatever, they go, oh, yeah, okay, this is what they were talking about, right?
Yeah, I would highly suggest for anyone listening to this who might be wanting to attend a clinic or some sort of, shooting school is what AIM shooting school calls it, but make sure that you have a similar level of ability because
Hmm.
sometimes you're with all advanced people and it might be a little bit over your head. Conversely, it might not be, but it would suck for you to be the advanced person in the room and
Mm,
be getting people that just picked up a shotgun last week from the local store that never considered gun fit or something.
right.
So as an instructor, I make sure that when I hold those kind of clinic or classroom events, we make sure that I take every effort to make sure that we're grouping the right people in the right group and making those
Hmm.
times available. Otherwise, I don't think people get as much out of it.
Right. Right. For sure. And I think that's one of the things that's, very respectful of what you guys are doing up there, you and Anthony and Diane. It's all very well thought out and deliberate and purposeful with the intention of being the best it can be to help people in the best way that they can be helped. And I
I'm
think
glad they have the reputation of that. I'm glad to be a part of it.
well, I mean, it stands out. I think we all know. I think people know. Well, you can tell when something's quality versus thrown
Oh yeah,
together, right? I mean, I feel like that's the same with any product or service across the board. And I think anybody that either knows or is in Anthony's circle in somewhat visible proximity to watch what he's doing, you can tell that he is a very driven, motivated person that's going to not only look to achieve success for himself, but for everybody around him and everything he does. And yeah, I think that's an awesome thing to be a part of. And I think it says a lot about you as well that he picked you to be a part
yeah,
of that team because I don't think he does anything by accident.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Again, kudos because you're talking 5, 6, 7 years or something like that since you've been even in the sport and competing. And there's a lot about you. I can see it. Your humility, your understanding, your coaching skill set and everything. I can see it. So I can imagine that he definitely was watching. I laugh because um there was it. Well, I bought my shotgun club, like, 17, and it was, maybe 3 months later that this young lady came in, and she came in to, just take some photos on property, like, she had a photographer, she just wanted some cool outdoorsy pictures, and, it was like a preliminary where of course, I'm going to let her do it. And I'm driving around the property with her in a golf cart and I'm just showing her different spots where I thought she could get some cool pictures. And the whole time I'm like, I'm going to hire this girl. Like this girl
Yeah.
she's got her shit together. Like she was so knowledgeable. She was so organized. She had good insight. There was like so many different things that I was picking up on. Of course, things like humility is important to me. And like, there's just so many different things I could pick up on. And by the end of, that time together, I'm like, do you want a job? And
Yeah.
she was just got hired for another job, and I was able to convince her to not continue that one and come on over. But, people stand out. Qualities stand out if if
Yeah,
you're paying attention. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so good for you. What do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years? Where is this all taking you?
It's a great question. I don't know, but hopefully continuing what I'm doing, working to get better, right?
Mhm.
Continuing to be able to put the time in to practice, to attend shoots across the country, just to be constantly getting better, both as a shooter and as a coach. One of the big things that I feel that everyone needs to do is they need to get out there and pull the trigger a little bit more than
Mm.
they think they need to. So just, making sure that we talked earlier about like being 110% committed at the shoot. And
Mhm.
while shooting is not the most important thing, once you leave the shoot, it has to still be important for you to get off the couch or make
Mm.
a priority to practice, and just making sure that I keep doing that. Because if you keep working and putting the time in, no matter what you do, consistency matters, and consistency is kind
Mhm.
of the key. So
Mhm.
if you look at the best in the game, the guys that I look up into this game are Anthony Matteries, Zach Keenbaum, and Todd Hitch. I'm fortunate to call them all really good friends.
Mhm.
Anthony and Zach have been putting in the work for a long time.
Mhm.
There's no doubt why they're there, right? A lot of hard work, a lot of not giving up.
Mm.
And, Todd's time in the game might be a little less, but the same qualities are there.
Right.
That's also because Todd's just younger, right? He's had less
Right.
time to
Right.
shoot.
Right. Yeah, and just breaking that down to bare bone basics is you got to get the repetition and not just random repetition, like your repetition of
Yeah.
some good skill sets. Because
Yeah.
if you just do random repetition and it's like, let's say not a good gun mount, you're going to be down the
Yeah.
road and having to break that habit while trying to instill a new one. It's a double whammy, and a habit's a habit. So, just to explain this from a mental perspective, if you want to, I don't know, stop eating candy. That's a habit. I have this habit. I have to drink my sodas every day and I want to drink more water. So it's the ending of a habit and the starting of another. And they're both challenging because whatever you've already repeated over and over and over again is in the subconscious and it's programmed at that point. And so consciously trying to change something, that's why they say it takes 28 days to change any habit. Well, 28 days if you're consistent at the
Yeah.
new one and don't fall into the old patterns. And so these concepts are applicable to everything, including clay shooting. So you want to repeat, repeat, repeat good mechanics.
Yeah.
Those then go into the subconscious, and ideally you allow them, and that this is where the mental game can get involved. You allow them to show themselves without worrying and doubt and fearing and second guessing and overthinking or distracted or whatever. Like, you have to be able to allow those things to come forward, but you got to get them in there. And that's that's what practice is. That's what
Yeah.
instruction is, and that's what practice is. It's quite simply repetition to get it into your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deliberate practice, making sure you have a journal of some sort, make you to know what you need to work on, and not just aimlessly guessing. Um, will go a long way.
For sure. Deliberateness and everything in life, right? Mindfulness and deliberateness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually ask, what would be one piece of advice or wisdom you'd pass on? You did just say, get behind the trigger. Is there any other little tidbit, like a magic pill?
I'm gonna just kind of key on something I just said is keep a journal.
Mm.
Right, write down what you're doing, what went well, what didn't go well. Some people want to record a whole lot of things. I did a
Mm.
different podcast a year or two ago on journaling. Write it down, know what you need to work on, because it's really easy to forget. Once the work week starts back up and you
Mm.
have family obligations and whatever else is going on. What did I miss, or where did I not do well? Or so if you can get to the root of what the problem is versus
Yeah.
maybe just a target presentation or whatever the situation was, write that down. Keep a book. I've kept books from probably like C class to at least through like the middle of master. Now I have it all on digitally, but I have like physical books. So if someone came up to me and said, how did you get to A class? I could pull it out and say, all right, here's where we started. And
Nice.
so I think it doesn't have to be in a book. You can go to a dollar store and get one if you really want to be in a bound book, but keeping some sort of notes to keep you on track and keep making practice purposeful.
Yeah.
I think it's something that it's worth. If you're going to invest, the $100 in a flat to go shoot and the entry fees at an event and the golf cart rental, and you can't afford $1 and a pen,
Right.
I might have a few questions for you.
That's a funny thing because people, related to mental training, and I totally get it that not everybody even understands what it is. But, to see some, especially at my shotgun club, I know the cost. I know how much it costs for somebody to shoot and to shoot regularly. I obviously know how much it costs to compete and the amount that goes into that. And I don't know if I can afford working on my mental game. I'm like, okay. All right. You just don't really believe that you need it is the bottom line. Yeah.
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 I feel
Interesting.
like if you're going to show up to the shoot, you got to be as well prepared as possible, and well prepared is subjective to the person, right? Well, make sure
Right.
they know. But when you drop the shell in the gun and you're going to address the target, if you can't fake confidence to yourself. You might fake confidence outward. When that moment happens, you write that down in the book and say, I got to practice whatever this was. Maybe it's not just the 30-yard crosser, but it's the 30-yard crosser and you're only down 8 targets and you never broke a 90 at a shoot and it's a last stand. And you need to break 2 out of the 4 of those. If you can get down to that level of detail, you're probably asking yourself better questions.
Mm.
And then, just to tie on to that, if I'm fortunate that I'm a member of a trap and skeet club, that I have a machine or 3. So if I really can't hit something, I can go set it up.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Since joining the club, I found it's a lot more work being a member than and holding. I run a 5 stand once a month there to let them as kind of a way for me to keep my machines there.
Yeah.
And but if you regularly frequent a club and you go, hey, you're a good enough customer. Let's put it that way. I don't mean spend a lot of money, but you're courteous. You're someone they want around the club or the company, and you politely ask, hey, can we set up this kind of crosser? Have a video on your phone. I'm sure they'll set it up for you, especially if you're gonna shoot the machine dry.
Absolutely. We get that. We have the monthly NSCA events, and my son and Joe are the ones that set the targets. And certain shooters that are regulars, I see them go up to Charlie, like, hey, Charlie, hey, would you leave station 2, trap 2, leave it this way? Or would you move that one to this, to that,
Yeah.
and I'll come back, and he's always like, sure, no problem. And that just happened a few weeks ago. I'm like, dang. You got special requests that you're doing here.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
helpful, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It cracks me up though. We have 2 courses, so one stays challenging all month. They're competitive targets. They're always going to be hard, and depending on how far apart our NSCA events are, we may or may not change those. If the next event's only in 2 or 3 weeks or something. But the green course is the easy one, and we keep the competition targets there until Thursday, from Saturday to Thursday. And then they're supposed to get nice and soft because the daily shooters, right? And so I've noticed that some of these guys will ask him to keep some of those hard. And I'm like, no, Charlie, no. We don't need to turn away our daily people. Let's scare them away.
So I know you
Yeah.
asked for just like one piece of advice, but I'm going to
Hmm.
throw in a 1B to that. Something I totally believe in is you got to hit all the easy targets. Before let's just use M&M as an example because many people are there, but really any club as you kind of described, you said your green course was the easy.
Yeah.
Cedar Creek, Joe's old club up my way is the same way.
Mhm.
Pick 10 stations, shoot 5 paired at every station, and come back with 100. I've never done it. I've had days where I've had 9s, and I've had days when I've had 84s.
Mhm.
But that's if I'm going to practice at a club, and we're at a club that has the ability to have kind of, I don't want to call it like they're not charity targets, but there's a few stations that are definitely easier. It goes from
Yeah,
novice to intermediate. Go break 100.
for
You can't do
sure.
it. If you can't do it there, you shouldn't expect it to do it when it's the last day of nationals on the harder targets, or again, the scenario when you might break your first 90 or whatever the 6. I don't care if you bet your buddy lunch, right? go there, work on routine, work on confidence. Let's make sure you have the easier stuff down, because you can't expect to hit 40 and 50-yard crossers, some of the bigger stuff you'll see in the game, if you can't constantly hit 20 and 30-yard crossers or quartering birds or fill in the blank, right?
Yeah. The so-called easy targets will get people all the time in competition. And the way that I see it is they just take them for granted. They're like, oh, this one's easy. And they don't go into their process. They're not deliberate. They don't give it the same level of attention and focus. And I don't mean that like over trying or becoming too analytical. I mean it just like there's a lot of respect given to the so-called hard target that the easy ones need respect too, and definitely practicing a lot of both. But I am totally following you. And that would build a lot of confidence. Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. I do want to tell people if they want some free tips related to the mental game, they can follow me on social media, and that's both the Amelia Shotgun Sports and then Dawn Grant Mental Training. I also have some free goodies at dawngrant.com/free, whether that's free access to my Mind Mastered app or even online courses and such. I do write articles in Clay Shooting USA, Trap Shooting USA, Wing and Clay Life, and Lady Outdoor Lifestyle magazine. So check out those publications and come see us in Northeast Florida, where Joe Skull's setting targets, and we do have our monthly competitions. So Haas, can you give us your contact info?
Yep. So easiest way to reach me is hoss@clayshootinginstruction.com. Also hard to miss on the course. Tall guy with red hair. So come up, say hello. If you feel free to email, ask questions, whatever it may be. I'm happy to help however that is. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I'm very happy to be supported by companies I believe in. So sponsored by Bear Pelt. Love their products. Obviously a part of AIM Shooting School, AIM Shooting School. And recently I've got on the pro staff of this new gun store in my area. It's called Highland Sporting Outfitters.
Nice.
They're a little north of Baltimore. So if you're interested in buying a gun, getting set up right from the start, that's probably the best place to go. And, let them know I sent you. And if you want me to be there to help out, I'm usually there on a weekend or sometimes in the evenings just to support and make sure people are getting set up right, which I think is most important. There's a lot of important things, but if you don't get set up right, from the beginning, there's a lot to overcome. For
sure. In all ways, right? Not only the mechanics, but the actual gun and the gun fit and everything.
If you don't get started with the right gun, and it doesn't have to be a certain brand, but if you have a gun that doesn't fit, it's too heavy, too long, something, that's what I'm taking pride in, is being a part here, quality customer service and making sure people are set up right, so they're not spending more money than they need to or having more headaches than they need to down the road. For sure. Good information and good wisdom that you're sharing. Thank you, Haas. It was really great chatting with you and learning so much about you and what you're offering. So thanks for taking time to be with us today. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Clay Mastermind with Dawn Grant. Mental excellence and industry insights. Brought to you by the Clay Lab. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and informative. Remember, mastering the mental game is key to unlocking your full potential on the course. And through our conversations with industry leaders, we aim to provide you with valuable insights into the world of clay shooting. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and share it. For more insights, training tips, and updates on upcoming events, Dawn Grant and Amelia Shotgun Sports are on all social media platforms. Go to dawngrant.com and come shoot at Amelia Shotgun Sports. Stay focused, stay driven, and keep pushing your limits. Until next time, Dawn wishes you success and happiness on your journey to peak performance and industry mastery.